Museum Explorations, discovering the world of museums, past, present, and future.
It's July 2025, and a couple of days ago I went over to the Leamington Spa Art Gallery and Museum to record this podcast interview with Chloe Johnson, who is the head of collections and engagement at the gallery and museum. Had a wonderful time. So we spent the first half an hour sitting in a really nice, comfortable nook in the gallery, looking out at artworks in the collection, which had recently been reorganised because of a major leak in the roof, which is currently being repaired. It's quite a big job. And there's some discussion in this first half about that and the issues of the challenges of running an art gallery and museum in a historic building, but also the benefits of that, which are really significant as well. So if you're interested in the museums, museum business, running museums, then that's really fascinating. Also, it gives, if you're a visitor to museums, it gives you a really interesting insight and gives you a different perspective, really enlightens the view of how art galleries and museums work and why they are like they are and what makes each of them so unique. We also then went for a walk around the building, which is, like I say, amazing and unique. It's an incredible kind of immersive experience, the whole thing from start to finish, because of the characteristics of the building, but also the way in which the artifacts are displayed. There's a kind of distinctive, more of an art gallery aspect to parts of it and more of a museum aspect to parts of it. But actually, as something that comes across in the interview, the first half, and then the walk around the museum, is actually how the concepts of museum, as distinct to gallery, don't really work very well. So we need to actually rethink that distinction, because the museum aspect of the art gallery and museum is very much an aesthetic experience, and that sensation and in some cases sensual experience of experiencing the artifacts in that context and getting a feel for what those artifacts were like out in the world that they were in. That's really important to the museum. And of course, the art gallery side of things is curating not just aesthetic experience, but stories. And it's all about those stories. And there are incredible stories for each of the artworks. As I discovered as I went round with Chloe, looking at the artwork, she had some great things to tell me about. Even tiny little details on an individual artwork can tell you a really big and interesting and significant story that we can learn from. So art gallery, museum, I no longer see those two things as distinct, slightly different roles, slightly different ways of operating, but they go together beautifully, and they go together beautifully at the Leamington Spa Art Gallery and Museum, which I definitely recommend you to visit and spend time at. And it's also one of those kinds of places, if you live locally, you can drop into at any time and get something new out of. We could have carried on for several hours looking at lots of different things. There is so much to see. I had an earlier visit and spent time, I think probably quite a lot of time, again with history curator Lily Crowther, and we looked at a completely different set of things and talked about a different set of ideas, issues, got inspired in different ways, but interconnected with the art gallery. So all of these different things are so significant, and I'm going to keep going back. In fact, I went back last night with my wife to the launch of their wonderful new exhibition curated by Kelly Sabin, Different View, Women Artists at Leamington Spa Art Gallery and Museum, which is a fantastic collection of works. As Chloe has said, the Leamington Art Gallery maybe has a higher proportion of works by women than any other gallery in the country. Possibly, they're not entirely sure, nobody's actually checked, but it's possible. And this collection really does show off the diversity of artworks by women. And they have commissioned some new artworks to go in there as well, which really complement it. The way in which it's displayed is very interesting, because it could have been very thematic, or it could have been historically sequenced, but actually they've gone for contrasts and connections. And those contrasts and connections, as you'll hear as we talk about it in the exhibition, are really what matters for this. It's and go in there and find your own contrasts and connections as you explore it. Okay, so here we go. This is a relatively long podcast. I think it's probably close to an hour altogether, but it's absolutely packed full of fascinating stuff. And as I said, I could go back and find even more interesting things. I'll try to get some photos and do some 360 images as well, and get a different view, as the exhibition title says. Okay, so do enjoy. Thank you. But hang on a second, one further thing to say, a little technical thing you might be interested in. The podcast was recorded using DJI mini mics with noise cancellation built in. So these are little lavalier mics that clip on or use a magnet to attach to your clothes. And I had the receiver for that plugged into my MacBook, recording into the MacBook. Although I could have done it on my phone, I just actually forgot to bring the adapter to plug it into my iPhone. But as you'll hear, the sound quality is really good. I could, in post-production, have dialed down the background noise even more, but actually I think it's nice to capture the ambience and to hear the life in the location and all the people. There were some people making quite a bit of noise moving around us, but it seems to have managed to balance that out quite nicely, so you still get the feel for it being a live art gallery and museum. You'll also hear, as we move around, each of the spaces has very different sound properties, echoey, some kind of more expansive, quieter, etc. Some of the spaces are quite small and enclosed and have tiles on the walls. So hopefully you'll get a feel for the different spaces as well. So listen out for that. It's really interesting. And as you go around the museum, also, that's a big part of the immersive experience of this. Okay.
It's quite difficult to get up from them sometimes. I feel quite comfy here.
There we go. The audio's up and running.
Good.
And we can just relax. That's the
Lovely.
key to podcasting.
And I just relax.
It's a very relaxing medium
Oh.
for people to be chatty.
Well, yes. So you're thinking we record actually physically here?
We can do.
Or we can, and then we can walk around maybe a little bit?
So it's running at the moment, and we can just go and get started. So good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Or good evening, or good morning, or whenever you're listening to this, probably in the middle of the night. I'm here in the Leamington Spa Art Gallery and Museum. Is that the right way around?
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Which is in the old pump rooms, an amazing building, and there's a lot of character to the building, which is something we can talk about.
Yes.
So the kind of what that gives you as a place, but also the challenges of that.
Yes,
I
indeed.
think we've postponed this once because of the roof leaking.
I think I need to explain something about that. Yes, exactly. So,
Before I do that though, Chloe Johnson, and you are...
So I have the snappy title of Collections and Engagement Manager,
Right.
which basically means that I, with my colleague Vicky Slade, head up the team that includes the curators, the learning and engagement cover, and also the an arts officer who has connections with all the wonderful creative and artistic things that happen in the district, which is a big district because it's not just Leamington, it's also Warwick, Kenilworth, and then all the areas in between.
Yeah, it's actually quite a diverse area too. So
It is. It's a diverse area. It's a great area. It's a wonderfully culturally engaged area. That makes our job wonderful.
Yeah, and a lot of history.
And a lot of history.
A lot
and
of
then this
interesting
building there's a lot of history in this building as well. And like you say, that is both wonderful and it has its challenges.
Yeah.
Vicky had a great way of describing this building as almost being like the largest item in our collection, which is a great way of putting it, because it is in itself, it's absolutely wonderful and extraordinary. But you're seeing some of the downsides to it right now. So the reason that we delayed our podcast by, I think it was about 3 weeks, was because we are currently having our rather complex roof fixed. So I started work here back in 2006, and one of my first jobs was to sort out a problem with a very amazing painting, very large painting, that I will show you a little bit later, that was hanging on a wall where suddenly the roof had leaked just close to it.
Yeah.
And so that was some time ago. It was all resolved and sorted, but it led to us then having to, we actually put up a sort of temporary wall. We're actually sitting opposite. I'm gazing at the mark on the roof that you can see there on the inside, which is where that leak was. And we actually closed that area off, just a small area. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, gosh, in a way, that was the worst thing we could have done, because we sort of started to live with it, to live with the problem.
Right.
But we didn't really have any choice, to be honest.
Yeah.
By blocking the area off, it gave us the same amount of wall space. Well, not quite, but almost the same amount of wall space. We knew that we could then put up the artworks, they would be safe. But it was sort of the beginnings of a whole lot of sticking plasters, because ultimately when these things go wrong, you need to fix them. And we finally got to the point where we were able to apply for some funding. Arts Council started running a MEND fund, acknowledging really that there were buildings all over the country that were really, really struggling with this. And so we applied for that funding. And thankfully we were successful and we did get it. So work started on the roof about 2 or 3 months ago. We knew that it was going to be a difficult time. There are some wonderful noises that keep coming through. Generally, we don't hear them when we're in this space, but up in our offices, I can tell you, it's quite loud at times. They're doing a brilliant job, but it is slow and tortuous.
So is it a Victorian roof?
This is a really complicated building because it's developed a lot through time.
Yeah.
So where we're sitting at the moment is the main art gallery, and that used to be what we will refer to now as the ladies' pool.
Right.
And it subsequently became a treatment centre and was a sort of health pool, while the pool that now houses the library was the swimming pool that anybody my age would remember learning to swim in. But they were built at different times.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was still in use fairly recently.
It was quite recently, and actually I want to show you some things that relate to that. But we had this pool, the building has evolved over time, and so the roof reflects that. So when you're in different areas, you've got different challenges, and there are areas that are made of glass, and so they're having quite a tough time.
But of course, it being originally a pool, a Turkish baths kind of place.
We have a Turkish bath, yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Hammam.
when they were building the roof, they might not have been worried so much about water getting in because the place is full of water.
Well, there is that, yes, there is that. And there's also the age of it.
And it feels humid as well.
Well, yes, and it shouldn't be feeling humid because, as you know, from visiting lots of museums and galleries, that's one of the things where, we have to control the light, we control the temperature, and we control the humidity. So we are having to manage at the moment. We're delighted that the work is happening over the summer. That definitely helps. At one stage, it looked as though it would be over a winter, and that would have been even more of a challenge. But it's happening over the summer, but it is quite warm. And one of the things that one of the problems that we had was that it's the plant, the air conditioning plant, is what actually caused some of the leaks. And so that has all had to be taken off.
Because that's been added in later on.
It was added at a later point and pierced some of the seals. So we did get to the point, by the time this work happened, and as I say, it's been over a long period, we had 90 plus leaks across the roof, some worse than others. And we were trying, obviously, to manage everything as we went through this.
I hope our audience aren't being discouraged from the world of museums and getting involved by all of this. But I think the thing is, though, that the building, and you see people coming into this building and appreciating the uniqueness of the space, and that's known as well, that story, that uniqueness. The building and its location in the park next to the river can cause problems, but all of that is so important to the experience.
You could have a really easy building to manage that was placed out of town, away from all this historical context, with lots of nice sort of white cube spaces that are easy to curate, that could look wonderful, but you would lose that sense of history. And that's one thing that Vicky and I we've both been here for quite a while. We really have felt passionately all the way through our working time of bringing the history, the museum collection and the art collection. I was the art curator, Vicky was the museum curator, bringing those things together to tell the story, because that is what makes us unique. Why would you come here to see something that you could see anywhere else? You want to come here to see something that tells the story about why this building is here, why we're all here, what happened here.
And that story connects in with all of the other stories, the people's stories as well. Out there, the people who come here and have been coming here for a long time, or the new people who come in, and it's a way of connecting
and want to know about it. It's a very loved building. Talking about the pool that was in here, we did a project recently, which is something that Vicky and I had wanted to do for a long time. So it was a real labour of love, where we actually went back and looked at the history of this space as a swimming pool, because over the years we have collected items, artists have interpreted things, we've looked at oral histories, we've told those stories, and we brought them all together for a display that happened in 23 to 24 called Water Everywhere. And then there was a wonderful project that actually started in lockdown, where a collage artist looked at all the different spaces of this complex building and imagined what was happening through time and put them all into a collage. So I can show you some of those. And then that has also led to another oral history, which has now led to an animation, which is just about to go on display this week.
So I do a lot of work with virtual reality and augmented reality. And I'm getting ideas here already. Well,
we have done a little bit of that already. So we had a very unique situation where we started the project with this collage artist who is called Victoria Smith, who is based locally, where she was looking at items in the collection that told the story. She was also doing additional research, and she was also referencing pictures and things from the art collection that were here. And she started working on it, and then we went into lockdown. So we ended up in this really unusual situation where she was using these images for her collages without having actually seen the real items, because we all weren't here at that point. And so we were working with River, who are a local virtual reality group, who we'd already done some work with doing some photogrammetry. And we wanted to tell the story of how these collages were created, and we were in this unique position. So what we did was we filmed actually exactly where we're sitting now with a 3D camera, and we wanted to show the elements that you can't see when you come here to this building. So we wanted to show the artist studio, and we wanted to show the art store, which I do want to take you into a bit later. And so what we did is we had some film of Victoria actually making the collage, and then we filmed the moment where I took her into the art store and showed her these items that she had got to know as reproductions that she was using in her collage. And the most obvious thing was sometimes they were huge and she'd imagine them small or vice versa. And we were able to film her reaction and share that experience, which is normally something that is behind the scenes.
So the technology...
And we produced a VR film.
Yeah, and it's giving people access to things that they can't anymore, or impossible, or the amazing uses of these technologies.
Well, there's some incredible uses. And I think it's when you can do things where you can bring together the content and these phenomenal tools and tell different stories. And then what was really interesting was then putting that out in the museum, and we had it out for a year, and it was who engaged in which way, and we looked at the audience engagements. Now, I've got children who are fascinated by all this digital technology, and so I was really aware that they would come in and they would sit. It was 16 minutes, which was longer than we intended. We meant it to be 10.
So 10 is usually what we aim for.
So we felt we couldn't cut it, and River indeed agreed. They thought it should be this length, and we said, okay, well, we'll see. My daughter, she's now 9, she was probably 7 at the time, she sat intrigued for that whole 16 minutes, and afterwards she talked about it.
They talked. That's what we find.
She was really fascinated by it. Now, if that had been just on a flat screen, or indeed if we had done it in a different way, she would not have engaged with it in the same way. So it was fascinating.
So it can make you feel differently. It can provoke thoughts, ideas, responses that just would not happen.
Yes.
And it's that kind of level of focus you get from being in there.
There's no distractions.
Yeah. So this is, I collaborate with a company called Leam River Immersive, and they do a lot of research on this kind of effect and why VR has this special difference.
Yes.
And they've done a lot with the public. So they ran a VR theatre for a year in Bristol with hundreds, possibly thousands of members of the public just to see what the impact was. And it's that.
Yes.
It really is incredible.
Yes.
And if you do it right, it provokes...
Yes. Yes,
provokes an interesting, it provokes a creative response and a critical response.
I think that's really important. I think that creativity is really important because I think it shouldn't just be an add-on. I think it's very easy for it to be an add-on and it doesn't tend to work so well. I think it needs to be integrated in the way you're thinking, and this is something we're very keen on because we're based in Leamington, which is often known as Silicon Spa. Indeed, we did an exhibition working with the companies that are based here, and there's so many. I mean, it's ridiculous, and we would really love to do more of that.
Yeah, but is that the essence of museums and galleries and what they try to do anyway? It's just the technologies finding new ways to do it. So
I mean, it's
provoking, giving a creative response, a critical response, getting people...
And making things accessible as well, and continuing to think about how to do that and how to do it for different audiences. And sometimes audiences that we're only just realising that we're not really engaging with as well as we could do.
So, I mean, I find that coming here, I dive in. You must have used these kind of metaphors before, it being an old swimming pool.
Yes.
You dive in and it's very immersive, and it's the layout of the place encourages you to kind of swim about.
I love that idea.
Go deep and go shallow and all of these kinds of things.
Metaphors.
That's how I feel about it. And this is, I mean, we're in a kind of nook in the gallery here, which to me, and we're sitting here in these nice soft chairs, but it feels like, you know, those times when when you go on holiday, there's a big swimming pool and you find a nice shallow bit and you just kind of sit there,
I love
contemplating.
That idea. I'm going to think of that
it feels
now when
like that. And there's all these kind of beautiful things floating around,
I love
swimming
that
around.
idea. Well, we're sitting here. We've got behind us the art store. And actually, we've got some curtains behind us, and you can just see behind it some metal strips, and those are actually the flood barriers. You mentioned that water has been the bane of our lives here.
So this is a kind of secure
Yes, it is,
storage
because
place.
We've talked about water coming in through the roof, but we actually have on the other side of that wall is the river.
Right,
And
so it's
the
not that
river
far.
literally comes
Okay.
right behind us.
I've canoed on that bit, and I remember what it's like and how close it comes.
It's very, very close.
And sometimes it does rise quite significantly.
It does, and through the winter months, and increasingly so, unfortunately. I think there have been some more flood defences further up the river that have made quite a big difference now. But yes, I think climate change is meaning that we're heading a bit more in that direction. So we are very much on alert.
Yeah.
And these, we have these safe spaces where these barriers go in. These, I remember that they've actually updated them now, but the first ones that we had when I arrived, everyone said, "Oh, they're from Venice. They've been, tested in Venice." But as they go in, they're sort of then screwed in, and should the water come in, then the more water there is, the firmer they become, and so that protects the art store. But thankfully, we've never been in a position where we've had to test that level of water.
No, this has just sparked an interesting connection for me. So one of the things that I'm doing in these podcasts, and also more generally in this new museum studies network we've set up at Warwick University, is looking for connections. And we have a base in Venice. So the university has a palazzo. It's very posh.
Maybe we need a team trip out there to have a look.
Yeah, of course they have the same kind of, maybe they have the same ambience as well. This feels very Venetian in a way. I guess it was designed with that kind of oriental...
It was. That is why the hammam is as it is, and that feels. I mean, it's a 19th century sort of reconstruction, so it's got that element to it. But yes, I mean, it is meant to.
You say about field trips, but we do.
I will bear
lots of events and trips out there. So maybe that's something the Museum Studies Network should think about.
They really have got some challenges.
I
mean, that makes ours pale into insignificance, but it is just something that we're very aware of. And the Water Everywhere title that Vicky and I gave our display did have a little bit of a hint of irony mixed in there.
Wow. Okay, that's fantastic. So I think we've sort of captured a lot about the essence of this place and what makes it special, but also the challenges and how you have to adapt to that and keep going. And I guess for the most visitors, apart from the big roof problem, it's largely hidden and they just have a great experience.
Yes, I mean, I think what you've got at the moment is it is a little bit more visible. So if we had recorded a few weeks ago, this space would have looked quite different.
Right.
So this is the main art gallery. Yeah. We change it over every 2 years thematically, but there will be changes that happen. But the problem that we had was that the little area that had been problematic that we'd blocked off had become, the problem had expanded a little bit. And that whole side of the gallery became a concern as the work is going on. Yeah. So what we have done is we've kept this area where we're looking, actually, we can see a wonderful array of art. But on the other side of the wall, and actually it's the first thing that you see when you come in, is a learning and engagement area. Yeah. So very different from normal. Actually really nice to put that learning and engagement front and centre for a change, because it's often accompanying other things we're doing, or we've just been in our craft studio,
which is just off at the side, isn't it? So
yes, it's a wonderfully atmospheric place where you sort of feel like messy things can happen. And there is indeed a children's area as well. But now it's the first thing you see, but that is quite deliberate. It is enabling us to use that space, know that the artworks are really safe, while the work is going on. And I'm afraid there is a whole quarter of the gallery that we can see here, which is actually blocked off while the work is happening, because we just don't want to take any risk. Because, I mean, our main job is to look after the collection and make it accessible. And we've got to make sure that everything is safe. And that is what drives our decision making. So while we would love to be showing more, through the summer we just can't, and once that roof work is done, we're suddenly going to be able to take that down, and we're going to have more space than we had before. So we're quite excited about that, and we're trying to just deal with the issues and be as positive as possible, because while it's annoying, it is so good that this is actually happening, and we're going to finally get our space back and be able to then do amazing things.
Even better than before.
Exactly.
So I see a bunch of easels.
Yes.
Right in the middle of the gallery here. So that's for some...
There's a reason there. It's because we have an exhibition on, which I would like to take you into. Okay. And it's called A Different View, and it is about women artists in the collection. Now, we are extraordinarily lucky, I think, to have an incredibly high proportion of women artists in our collection.
Unlike some galleries in London.
Unlike a lot of the really major ones. And actually, we haven't yet managed to find any other galleries that have got quite such a high proportion as us, although I'm not going to claim that they aren't out there, so answers on a postcard. But a lot of those women worked in particular ways. They were restricted, and the exhibition tells that story. But one of the things that women often did was they copied. They were copyists, and there's an incredible copy of a Raphael in the exhibition, which is a good example, but there are others as well. And so we're always keen to encourage a bit of creativity, but having actual easels where people can copy, and you can see that there are some examples of pictures that are in that exhibition that are there, so people can actually copy some of the paintings on display.
Even just seeing that there completely changes the mood of the place and your attitude and expectations when you come in.
Yes.
I've been to some galleries and museums where they really just, it instantly hits you that there is nothing you can contribute here. There's no possibility that you can do anything creative. Don't even think about taking a photo.
Well, I know photography is always one of those difficult things with copyright, but I think things are beginning to move on. We are starting to think differently about that, and sometimes it takes the rules and regulations to a bit of time to catch up. But yes, we are getting there, and we always feel it's when particularly artists, sometimes you can't reproduce their work. It's sort of they get lost in history, and we can't. And that's actually, some of those things have happened to some of the women artists. We've got works out that we haven't actually shown for years, and now there's a lot more work being done, and it's as though they're coming back to life.
So there's curatorial work, research work to be done.
There is, and what's been really lovely with that exhibition is that we've been able to time it to link in with a lot of work that's been going on nationally.
When I came and talked to Lily a while back, one of the ideas that got sparked there was the potential of using. I don't want to sound like I'm kind of jumping on the hype bandwagon, but using AI to using machine learning to look at what's in the collection, and also then make connections with
Yes.
Together within the collections,
Yes.
but also with things in the outside world
it's
and other collections.
It's really important when you're researching. I mean, we had a really good example just the other day. We have just completed a huge art audit, which is something that you go through regularly just to make sure that everything's where it should be and that the documentation is absolutely, as it should be. And one of the pieces that we had was by Thomas Baker. So he was an artist who was based in Leamington, very successful, known nationally, but quite ambitious.
Yeah.
And he kept this extraordinary record of everything that he made, sold. He was in some ways a sort of curator's dream.
Yeah.
And also it's quite helpful because he produced a lot of landscapes that were quite similar to other landscapes. So they were all local. So we've got a good number of Baker's works. We had this one piece that was just painting. That was the record. It was like, right, okay, we don't know what it is. But there's an amazing record and it's now available online. So at Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery, they have this inventory that he has he put together. And not only is it an inventory, he did little thumbnail sketches, pen and ink sketches of each work.
Yeah.
And each work is numbered. So the number should appear somewhere on the back of the picture. You can't always get into it because sometimes they're framed. Anyway, there is that, but equally there's one of his descendants has put together a really wonderful website. So our researcher went in, had a little look at both of these, and within a really short space of time was able to identify our painting, match it up with the inventory, and is now able to then let the descendant who's putting all this research together know that this picture, that it was whereabouts unknown, is actually here, and when it got here and all the history. And the fact that she was able to do that at her desk. Now that inventory hasn't been online for that long, and that's quite a basic level of digital intervention, but it's made a huge difference.
Who knows what we'll discover?
Oh, exactly.
It will be incredible.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm just thinking now maybe we go for a look around and experience the collections in person. Okay, so Chloe's going to lead me through
to the exhibition.
Yeah, we'll go and have a look and see what we've got. Space is quite busy. There's lots of people doing interesting things.
We're following the spots and the arrows to take us through into the exhibition space, which is right at the back of the building. So having said the building evolves over time, this was the last bit really to be added. So this was at the point where this building became a art gallery and museum.
But there's an interesting there's kind of interesting, fascinating stuff all over the place.
There is.
But I've just noticed this, which is an old Victorian or earlier, I can't read it, I've got the wrong glasses on, police lamp. So that's kind of like bringing the outside in as well and making that connection.
It is indeed, and we actually have a display at the moment about 200 years of policing in Leamington, and they're marking their anniversary this year. So we have a few items on display near the Hammam.
My colleague Yoon from the Digital Arts and Humanities Lab is creating an augmented reality experience for the police at the moment, using lots of artifacts, because the artifacts are really interesting.
Yes, yes.
Not just the truncheons and the sort of dangerous stuff, the tasers and that, but...
That's quite interesting. Well, this takes us in, I would imagine our voices sound a little different. We've come into quite a different space now.
Yeah, this is echoey.
So this is echoey. This is the exhibition space, and this changes. We do 3 exhibitions a year, and this completely changes. We change the colour, we can move the walls, we can do a lot of things. And you talked about the space that we were sitting in before and how you felt that you were almost swimming. I think there's a really, really strong identity of those spaces. Whereas when you come in here, you have got more of a kind of white cube space. It's not painted white at the moment, it's terracotta. But there's quite a lot of freedom to put different exhibitions up that then feel very different each time that you come in here.
And are these temporary walls in the middle, movable?
These are temporary walls, yes. Okay. So they move around. This is the picture of the horses, which is a real favourite. And it was this one that I mentioned earlier that was the one that I had to sort out some conservation for, because the leaks had caused a problem in the weeks before I arrived here. So when I was a new curator, it was this painting that was very much front and centre with my in my mind.
And it's pretty big with a massive heavy frame.
It
so
is.
moving that in a hurry would be scary.
This is one of the ones we would say was a 6-man job. Yes. And so we have a special lift that we use for it when required, and it's firmly attached.
So one of the things about museums and galleries is to be involved in this involves everything from thinking about how to move a bloody great big artifact to kind of big theoretical stuff.
Yes, it's like a real mix, and actually that's one of the things I absolutely love about this job, because you are involved in everything. I mean, in a sense, we're registrars as well as curators, and now I'm heading the team, but I still very much think of myself as a curator. We do research, and it ranges from that to actually sometimes we'll be painting the walls.
Yeah, but all fun. Do you have a team of volunteers as well that come and
we
do
work with, yes, we'd like to do a bit more of that, but we work with what used to be NADFAS, now the Art Society. We have a team that come in on a Monday and do some often sort of packing and conservation style work, but we also have a team of casual staff who come and will help install and sometimes help with research and help deliver our learning and engagement. And we've set that up actually because we really feel that we would like to be paying people to do that work as they're progressing through their careers.
And that's spreading the kind of museum skills and experience more broadly as well.
Yes.
Because that's one of the things we're seeing. Jamie Larkin, one of my colleagues from the university, who's a museum studies academic, did some work on this and seen lots of small museums popping up, enthusiast-led museums. So the kind of museumness is spreading.
Yes, yes. And we've been involved actually with Jamie and the Createch work as well, because we're very interested in all of that. I mentioned a copy. We have two copies here. This is the Raphael copy that I mentioned, which is a rather splendid piece. You can see it's in need of a bit of conservation, and our plan is as soon as this comes down, we have managed to get some funding from our Friends group, FLAG, and also from other sources, because it will cost a little bit to fix this. So there's a crack because it's actually painted on wood, and there's a little bit of what looks like mildew. I think the conservator said it wasn't quite that, but I'm not an expert, but that area there. And also, you can see up here, only if you look, it's amazingly difficult to see unless you know it's here, but there is a chunk that's come out of the frame. So we have shown it because we feel that it is displayable while people do know that this is an issue. And it's a really, really interesting piece. So this is a copy of a Raphael that was in the Pitti Palais, and it shows a mother and child. Well, it's the Madonna and child. It's called the Madonna della Seggiola. And it was a really famous painting, and it was reproduced and put everywhere. It was seen as sort of improving in a way. So there were lots of copies, but this is a particularly good one.
1891, that's sort of towards the end of the Grand Tour era.
Exactly.
So, now, and lots more people wanting to get that experience of going to these places. But
yes. But what's interesting about this, everything obviously in here was painted by a woman. This was painted by someone called Laura Cooks. Now, she was from the family of cabinet makers who were experts in wood carving. And if you've ever been to Warwick Castle and seen the Kenilworth buffet, it was her family who produced that. But the person who's been doing research into this is someone called Sharon Fermor, who used to be the head of painting at the V&A. She's been doing a lot of research into Laura Cooks, and she thinks that actually this may well have been made, this extraordinary frame, and it really is quite amazing. It may well have been made by Laura herself.
Wow.
I know. And it really is an extraordinarily good copy of the Raphael, because like I say, there were many around, and they're not all this proficiently done.
It's the kind of beautiful softness of the skin and the light on the fabrics.
Yes, and the
colours. Touch. You get a feel of touch.
Yes, you do. You absolutely do. And I think once this is, it will have an element of, cleaning is the wrong word, but when these elements of conservation have happened, I think this glass is probably not great on the other side, and it's quite greeny. And the varnish that would have been put over it before it was glazed has probably yellowed. So I can't wait to see it when it actually comes back from conservation.
And I think you'll get the frame is quite shiny, quite bright, but the lights from that is going to be amazing. It's
extraordinary.
The frame is incredible, isn't it?
The frame is extraordinary. It really is.
It's elaborate. It's huge. the painting itself is an oval in the middle, and it's bronzy gold coloured.
And it's wood, because we've got this bit here.
Yeah.
You can see it's all carved. So it was very common at this point for something like this actually to be a lot of it made of moulded plaster.
Right.
Because that was cheaper.
Yeah, yeah.
And probably a little easier.
Must have taken a long time.
I know. I mean, this is like the epitome of an amazing wooden frame from that time. Yeah. It's gorgeous. So our hope is that when the work has been done, that instead of it going back into our store, we would love to put it back where it was actually designed to go, which it says the Library of Leamington. That was actually in the town hall, which is one of our spaces.
So there's another layer to this artefact as well, which is its connection to
to what was
Leamington
the free public
and
library.
the public library and the history of
the
civic history.
Yes, and her role in it as well, which is interesting because she ended up, as one of the women in the family, she ended up actually looking after. She was in quite a sort of caring role.
Yeah.
And so she wasn't really able to do an awful lot of her own work until a bit later in her career. There's not an awful lot of her work available, but she was immensely talented. And she obviously had a huge confidence in donating this to her town.
Yeah.
Because it's all noted here on the frame. So,
do you know, there's so many layers.
I know.
This would have been made, so this is made in England. Is it completely made
here,
in England?
Here,
so,
in Warwick.
Yep, in the winter, darkness, without the electric light we have today.
Well, yes. And I think it's interesting thinking how she made this perfect copy as well. Yeah. Because obviously the reason these copies were going around is there wasn't photography. Yeah. I mean, there was, but not to capture the colour. Yeah. And so how she managed to visit it in person, which we know she did, while she was on Grand Tour, because the family had enough money for her to do that. But she was able to then really capture the detail and bring that home. Yeah. So it is an extraordinary piece in lots of ways.
It's kind of Italian light bottled and brought.
That's a really nice way of putting it.
It captures the light. It's like transporting you to a different environment.
Yes.
A different world, where it's not darkness for half the year.
Absolutely. And I think it does put this idea of copying into a slightly different context, because we think of copies as being maybe a bit like a photograph now, but it's not really. It's not just a recording and a reproduction. It is something in its own right. And this is another example. This is like the complete opposite scale.
So this is a tiny little icon kind of.
It's beautiful, exactly. It's just like an icon, but it's also from around the same sort of time. It's only less than 20 years later. So it's a little, it's a copy of a part of a Filippo Lippi Annunciation picture. And it was done by Margaret Gear. Right. And she deliberately went and copied it, but she equally changed it slightly. She has, it's not the full picture, it's focusing very specifically on the Madonna. And it is like a little icon. And it's painted on tempera, which you were saying about the way this sort of almost seems to glow. Tempera has that similar effect.
Which that was a big thing in this area at the time. So who was the Birmingham artist who did tempera?
You're thinking of, Van Jones probably did a little bit of it, but there were a lot of artists working in tempera at that time, because they were. It was a bit like sort of taking on the pre-Raphaelite painting white with a white base, and so everything had a glow. But it was also tempera was also associated with these artists from the Renaissance, because they were painting often on walls and they would use the tempera, and it was seen as a very contemplative process, which works with it being an icon. Right. Yeah. But you get this lovely light coming through. I mean, they do seem to glow, and then you put it into a gold frame like this little gold frame, and it's even more sort of, visually arresting. So although it's very small, it really catches your eye as you come to this point in the gallery. And we actually I'm very fond of this one. We acquired this in lockdown, actually. This was a piece that came, it came to our attention that it was being sold, and we tried to buy it and were successful, and we had support from our friends group to acquire that. But it was quite quirky doing anything like that in lockdown, so we were very excited about it.
And it works so perfectly next to the massive painting in the big frame. It does,
and then
really
we've got a 20th century piece by Alma Ramsey, another local-based artist, which is a mother and child in marble. Totally different in one way, but obviously talking to these other pieces. And I love that juxtaposition. And that is what has happened throughout this throughout this exhibition, actually. I was lucky enough to be working with Kelly Sabin, who was the curator who put this together, and has produced a wonderful catalogue which tells the story. And it was really, really interesting when we came in to actually display it, because all the pieces here have got real presence. And we started looking at where they were going to go, and the intention was originally to tell something that was a bit more of a chronology.
Right.
But in fact,
this is more.
It's disrupted. It's wonderful. You get these fabulous links across. We've got contemporary pieces dotted through and very much talking to the pieces from like the 19th century and early 20th century.
Which brings out what's special about the individual artworks, but also.
I find, as a woman coming in here, I find it an incredibly exciting and empowering space to be in. I really do. I think if you come here thinking you're going to learn about sort of, women painting pretty pictures of flowers in the 19th century, you will be disappointed. It's got a lot more about it.
And the piece we're just looking at, which is a massive painting or photograph?
It's interesting. It's a photo collage.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I see, yes. When you look up close, you see that.
So this is by an artist called Naomi Goodall. Okay. And it's a two-part piece that she produced, and we actually acquired it through the Contemporary Art Society. And the other piece is with rugby, and actually we did bring them together to show them together at one stage. But the reason that we're so excited to have this here is because it is a collage. I mean, it dominates the space. When you walk in, it's absolutely amazing. And it's an extraordinary scene. It's like a satellite.
Just completely upsets stereotypes about women and art.
Yes, it does.
It's a big, brutal, concrete thing.
Yeah, brutal. It's like brutalist architecture.
But also, it's kind of a receptacle, a kind of place that you can climb up those steps. And I actually climb up there, and I think it's a sound mirror, is it? Or something?
Like one of those. That might be the reference,
yeah. So there's something about how it's collecting, and it feels like it's pulling you in as well.
Yes, but it's in a sort of like as though it's just been discovered in a forest. It's interesting you say the word mirror, because actually one of the nice connections that there is visually is with this piece by Julie Debastian, where you have a mirror, another round mirror. And it's a self-portrait actually from her time in New York, and it's a really powerful piece, and you have that link. But one of the things that we particularly wanted to draw out was this. We've talked about copying, that being an element that women often did. Collaging was also a huge thing that women did. And we have these wonderful scrapbooks, and there's another piece over there, which is a very personal family album. And these were often ways that, that women would make semi-private, semi-public collections. So they would be curating their own collection or documenting things, and then they would share them with their friends. And so Lily Prather, who you've mentioned, has been doing a lot of research into this, and it obviously has this link with the Naomi Goodall as well.
You could imagine some people coming to a nice tea party in one of those big Georgian houses in Leamington, and at some point in the conversation, the homeowner says, the lady says, come and have a look at this.
Yes.
And brings it out, and everybody's going, wow.
Yes. So it's a really interesting thing, and they're done so carefully and beautifully. But this is a good example of something where you could have a digital intervention here, because we are not able to show, you can't just keep turning the pages. And while we might say, well, we'll show a few different pages through the course of an exhibition, if you have them digitally, you can then show more of it. And
big digital touchscreen box is something that's got really good. I think at the Bletchley Park Museum, they've got some fantastic ones there, and they just work. So they're now just reached the point of being totally reliable.
We need to get to the stage where everything does work, because sometimes you do find that it's the technology that sometimes lets you down with some of these things.
But I think all of their stuff is done by a technology company that works specifically for museums and just developed these things to be absolutely Wow. Okay. So I think that's half an hour just in. I mean, there's so much
to see. It doesn't do it justice just to be here for a short time, but hopefully it's enough to just whet your appetite.
Although just visiting for a short time also is quite.
I actually do encourage my children to just, when they go to places, sometimes to just focus on something small almost, and not feel guilty that you can't see everything at the same time. We went to the British Museum, and I encouraged them to find sort of the biggest thing and the smallest thing. And then you see a lot of things as you go through, but not to feel overwhelmed, because that can sometimes take the joy out of the discovery of places like this.
Well, there's museums that we've been going to with our children for many, many years, and we still find new things in there.
Yes, and you see the same things in a different way as well.
So the sound has changed again.
Yes.
And the light has changed. All this room has definitely got that Turkish
atmospheric
kind of thing. It's got the beautiful coloured glass patterns in the ceiling.
So we're standing in the middle room of 3.
Okay.
So you can see with these lovely arches, this sort of Alhambra style arches. So when you came here for treatments, this space over here would have become, that was the hottest, warmest one. We're standing in the middle where we've got a display of our medical equipment. And we've set something off that's now talking to us. And then finally, there's the hammam, which is the cooler one, where you would have sat wrapped in your lovely warm towel.
There's a really stark contrast here between kind of wellness, well-being spa and medicalisation of it.
And I think this is something that we wanted to be able to tell the story of. So when we look at these treatments, and the treatments here continued on for a really long time. This is, of all the spas, this is the one where the treatments went on longest, because it became an NHS treatment centre. We have got wonderful oral histories from the people who came here to have treatments, and they talk about this sort of amazing sense of care, and they felt really sort of, cosseted, and the warm fluffy towels keep cropping up. And it's very much how we think of going to a spa now. Yeah. But when we look at the equipment, it's slightly terrifying.
It's scary.
Isn't it?
Bosch, great big Bosch kind of rope. Looks like something that would be used to kill James Bond.
I know, it's quite strange. So we need to sort of explain that story, because actually at the time these were seen as, these really new, exciting modes of treatment, and they weren't really perceived as scary. We've just seen a child actually walk into this space, which is, I think every house should have one of these. It's a needle shower. So if I walk in, it will set off a sound of the water flowing, and you stand in the middle, and it's pinprick holes that would come through. And this was used, you can see again here in this treatment on the Vichy douche slab, which was here, pinpricks of water coming down so that you could feel this wonderful spa water, and it could make you better.
So this combination of art and small and big and, installation level kind of museum artifacts.
Yes.
And the way in which it moves between those two things. There's no separation of the aesthetic and
We're trying to tell those stories, be inspired by those stories. So we've done a number of projects where we've had artists come in, look at the oral histories, look at the building, be inspired by them, and then produce artwork. So we're trying to connect it all in, because that's what makes it special here.
And you feel the past. You literally feel the past. You say it's sensation of the past as well as.
I was showing a colleague a sort of amusing angle on the past based on these spaces, because Mick Jagger had a period where he was doing his own work away from the Rolling Stones, and in 1993 he came and filmed here, very much where we are right now as we come into the hammam. He did, it's called Sweet Thing, you can now see it online. He used the then derelict pool that was the library, and then this space, and projected images, and you can see the tiles of the projected on the dancers' bodies as they come through. So it's always quite amusing. So I think it's captured his imagination.
And now we're in the Turkish bath.
We are.
The hammam.
We are, and we have reproductions of the types of seating, sort of rather nice. It's a bit like the ones you would find next to a swimming pool, where people would come and relax afterwards. So this is the original, which you can't sit on, but we have 2 reproductions. And we have sometimes come in here and found people asleep because they're so comfortable. And you can listen to oral histories about people's treatments while you're here. But it's a lovely space.
It's got a nice ambience.
It has.
The sound is...
Newsnight
I don't know how well that's going to be captured by... Maybe I'll come back with a recorder and...
Yes. Well, certainly Newsnight, interestingly, when they came and filmed here once, they had the whole run of the building, and they chose to film in here, which was rather nice.
Yeah. And it's got a nice arrangement of furniture as well. So I like this. You can sort of sit here, be on your own, but then turn around and chat to.
Yes.
I can chat to my wife, who's sitting and doing her own thing and look in the opposite direction.
Well, yes, you often do see these in galleries, don't you? So that you can look at the walls, look outwards. We've got some rather nice benches that were made by Angus Ross, who's a furniture maker, which kind of echo the history of the building again. So wavy benches and there are references like that chair there with the life belt and things that reference water.
Oh, wow. All the detail. That's the amazing thing. It's so much detail.
Yes.
That's fantastic. We go through some arches just like in the Alhambra.
I know, lovely arches. That's the police display, which is here, which is a temporary display. We've tried to create a lot of display spaces around the building now, so that it's not just the exhibitions, but there are smaller spaces as well.
And there's another level upstairs.
There's another level
upstairs. Which is open now, is it?
Well, half of it is open. So we have some serious issues going on with the roof on the other half. So you can go up and see some pieces up there. You can see the pieces we have that relate to Randolph Turpin, who's obviously a very important, the boxer, who's an important person in our history here. But that whole area will be open as we get towards the end of the year, and the work's been done.
Wow, so much. What an amazing experience. Thank you.
Pleasure. Well, I'd love to take you through now into the art store.
Yeah,
That's my favourite bit of all.
Okay, secret bit. I've been into a few of these. I went into the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust's bunker. They have a nuclear bomb-proof bunker.
Brilliant.
That they keep the kind of first folio in and things like that.
So we're walking through the Haddie's Gallery, which is the children's area.
I remember this.
And you'll hear a beep as we go through this door. So if you were to go up those stairs, you'd come to our offices. Right. This is the other joy of having a historic building where everything is crammed into every little space that we have. And I'm now unlocking the door to go into the art store.
Okay, I feel very privileged. There's not like some kind of ritual I have to do before being allowed to swear an oath in Latin or something.
There we are, get some light. So yeah, so this is I think my favourite place actually. I absolutely love it in here.
We can't capture the smell in the podcast, but it has that.
It has a distinct smell. Yeah. It is currently full of slightly random bits of kit that aren't really meant to be here, which are because of the work on the roof. We have backup humidifiers, dehumidifiers that we can use to control the temperature in here while there are problematic things going on upstairs. But we've also got more of this medical kit. So this is these are these heat light
that could be used to create Frankenstein's monster.
It does look like that. It really does look like that. And they're cheek by jowl with pieces of sculpture and paintings, and then costume down here as well, and lots and lots of boxes.
Yeah.
So most of which are very heavy, actually.
You don't get to display the costume.
We do. We do show the costume. We have mannequins that we can show them on. But I mean, there are issues with light and with fabric, so we have to be careful. And
with the theatrical industry locally, costume is a big thing.
Yes.
The our Royal Shakespeare.
Yes, exactly. And a lovely radio, a lovely old radio. Yeah. I wanted particularly actually to show you this.
This clock. Can we actually time travel with this? It looks like.
It does look like. Looks like the one in in some children's programs where they suddenly go back in time.
Brilliant.
But yeah, so we've come into the middle section here. So this is where we've got our racking. So paintings are often stored on these racks so that we can easily access them. But we've also got this rather extraordinary contraption here, which we use to transport large paintings from one space to another. And this painting was on the wall before. Had we done the podcast on the day that we'd expected, this painting would have been on the wall. And it's quite a key one. It's by someone called Abraham Blomard. And it's the largest of our quite impressive collection of Dutch 17th century works. And it's one that actually, well, we're all very fond of it. It's got quite an interesting story, but it's used an awful lot for learning and engagement as well. And
there's a lot of details you can spot, and some of them quite funny, like the guy climbing the tree.
Well, yes.
What is he up to?
Well, exactly. That's the first thing you've seen. But actually, it's called the prodigal son.
Right.
So most pictures of the prodigal son would have the prodigal son right in the most obvious place. He's actually all the way over here. And he's not looking that obvious. You do realise, the more you look, that there's a shaft of light coming right from the top left, right down onto him, in almost the other corner.
From these thunderclouds, this gloomy kind of sky.
So what we've got here is this absolute moment of recognition that maybe there is some redemption from the situation.
There's somebody hiding behind the wooden fence there, looking
there's some wonderful
bit dodgy.
Detail
What's going on there?
I know. Well, I mean, this is really well, I was going to say it's a typical farmyard scene, and it's very, very accurate. But I mean, this piece here, right in the front, almost looks like a Renaissance grouping here.
Yeah.
I mean, my favourite bit is the tiles on the roof. I mean, the level of detail. You've got this beautiful old tiled roof, and then clearly they put some modern bits on, and they've done that. And just you feel this is an actual building that Blomart saw and drew, and then brought into this.
You wonder, these comic people doing these strange things, are they real people, and were they like that?
Oh, exactly. I think possibly little things. Lots of little bits all drawn together. You've got this wonderful birds here, sort of having a little chat here. So there's an awful lot going on. And these pigs are interesting, because most children, when they come in, don't recognise them as pigs because their tails haven't been cut. So instead of having the curly tails, they've got these long tails.
Yeah.
So
there's stories, lots of
stories,
detailed stories,
so much to see.
You could spend an entire life.
You could, and certainly it works extraordinarily well when you're trying to just explain all these different things that are going on and get the children to have a look. That's really wonderful. But it's a really key work, and it came in through the Francis Cook collection, along with a huge, wonderful portrait by someone called Godfrey Shelton. But it has led to, subsequently there was a donation of works by a Leamington resident called Captain Mark Field. And then really recently, only in 2015, we had donated works from the George Watson bequest, because of the collection that we had, that they connected in and they related, and we made a case, and now we have that. So we do have a really significant collection now of Dutch works, and this particular picture kind of is almost like holds the key to unlocking that for us. So it's a real treasure, and we all absolutely love it.
Yeah. But quite hard work to get on display.
Well, this is why we had to take it off display, because should there be a problem, that really is a six-man job to take it down. We would not want to be moving it. So it's out here so that it can go back on display as soon as we are able to do that. But right now it's hiding in our store in safety. Wow. But it's a wonderful space in here.
Do you ever come down here just to get
to escape?
Just to escape, get some peace and quiet, and get something done.
It's quite fun. Well, I think what is so nice, actually, and I really am aware it's a privilege, is because we have got everything here on site. Yeah. And while it's a bit like the whole issue of being in a historic building and that being awkward and troublesome at times, but being a joy as well, in some ways we could have much easier racking, we could have a much easier store to manage if it was off site. Yeah. But being able to work upstairs and then think, oh, I just need to go and check on that, and come and see the actual artwork, and not to be researching it from a book and a picture, but to be actually in front of it. It changes what you produce, actually, and it is a complete joy. So I love it.
Fantastic. That's beautiful. What an amazing place. Thank you. Okay. Well, coming to the end of the podcast, I think there's been far more detail and amazing stuff than I could even have imagined. Thank you so much, Chloe. It's brilliant.
It's been a delight to show you around. It's my favourite subject, talking about all this, so it's been lovely.
Hopefully we'll encourage more students, more members of the public, more schools to come over here and visit and make the most of this wonderful experience.
Well, we look forward to welcoming you.
Thank you.
Thank you.